Scott Ostler joining us right now, writes for the San Francisco Chronicle. You can follow him at SCOTTOSTLER. Scott, great to have you on. It's a sad day in Oakland. We've been covering this story all year and how poorly the treatment of A's fans has been by their owner, John Fisher, who actually spoke to the fans for 8 seconds the other day. What's your reaction to the news of course, his friends, his cronies, the owners, approving this relocation without having to pay a relocation fee as well?
Well, it's no surprise because they wouldn't have taken the vote had they not been sure of winning it. And so that was no surprise. And I take exception to what you said, that this is a sad day for Oakland. I kind of feel the other way, that should be a day of celebration for Oakland because they got rid of John Fisher, who is arguably the most incompetent, toxic, unfeeling owner in baseball, if not in sports. And that's saying a lot.
It's a great line.
I totally love that. I was like, wow, you offended him already? He's been on the show for like a minute. I love that.
And so we're looking at your tweet right now here too. A's and MLB don't give a split. In fact, they wish Oakland would shut down. Is that what did I read that right? Hold on.
Cut off on our screen.
I just fixed it.
But
the point is valid. So Scott, I wanted to get your thoughts here on what today means for the city of Oakland. If you think, Oakland will ever be able to have a baseball team on its own again, and even obviously your thoughts on how the brand, that's my big thing, will be received in Las Vegas, because you said it. I mean, he's known. John Fisher has made himself a name in all of sports. He is maybe the top villain in the North American professional sports. Nobody wants him. And I think fans that are going to be pushed over to him are going to be like, why am I rooting for this guy to succeed?
I can't believe that Las Vegas is celebrating this because obviously Las Vegas would like to have a baseball team, and they probably deserve one, and they probably could support one. But a John Fisher baseball team is a whole different thing. It's just a recipe for disaster. He has promised the people in Las Vegas, and they're taking him at his word, that if he is able to build a ballpark there and they help him, that he will start paying a fair major league salary, a payroll. And to take John Fisher at his word on something like that is lunacy, because he's showed every step of the way that he's not going to pay a major league salary. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? So is he going to pay a major league salary once the fans start flocking in? But the fans aren't going to flock in if he's got a crummy team. So it's just. I'm sure Las Vegas would love to have a team, but they would much, much, much prefer to have an expansion team. And I think that's where Oakland stands right now. They'd be much better off with one of two things: either an expansion team, or the A's coming back to Oakland after they fail in Las Vegas, and without John Fisher after he sells the team.
Scott, that makes total sense. My question is, the things I'm reading, the A's lease is up after 24.
Right.
Then they have until 28. So they have 3 years. They have nowhere to play. Why would the Giants let them play there? They're going to play in the AAA park. They're going to play here, there, and everywhere. My other question is, how does the Players Association allowing them to not have a home base for the players? This whole thing just seems ludicrous to me.
Well, the Players Association kind of has their hands tied because the A's have to play somewhere. The Players Association doesn't have the power to say we're dissolving the A's franchise. So they will definitely have a voice. For instance, if it is decided by MLB that the A's will play those 3 or 4 or 5 seasons in Las Vegas, for instance, in an open air stadium, the Players Association might say, no, we're not going to sign up on that. We're not going to have our guys playing in 110 degree temperature. So, and the Giants, there's 3 options: the Las Vegas ballpark, the Giants ballpark, and the Giants have said maybe, but not for a whole season. We might put these guys up for 30 to 40 games for a couple of years, but not for a whole season. So that's another problem. And the third option is to get a lease extension in Oakland for 3 or 4 years beyond next year. And that's problematic because, for one thing, the MLB and the A's have not even attempted to discuss that with Oakland yet. So they're kind of waiting a long time. And for another thing, Oakland would be crazy just to let them come back and say, sure, yeah, come on back for a few more years, without extracting a promise of getting an expansion team, which Manfred and MLB appears not to be willing to do, to give Oakland that guarantee.
Have the owners done like an incredible job, and how have they done it, of shielding this guy from the public, shielding Fisher from the public? Because here on the East Coast, if it wasn't for being a huge baseball fan and trying to get to the bottom of this, I wouldn't have seen any of this. And it feels like they are just, they've isolated it to the Bay Area, and that's about it. That's all the uprise that we hear.
My sense is that the other 29 owners are just like holding their heads saying, oh my God, this guy's a clown. It's a clown show. He's embarrassing MLB. He's embarrassing the rest of us. And there's a lot of clowns in that club too. But they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with Fisher. They can't, short of voting to make him sell the team, basically voting him out of the club, which would be I think that's too far for them to go, because they don't want to be told what to do with their ball club, so they don't want to set that precedent. But I think the other owners are just looking at John Fisher like, the guy in your family who's the cousin who's always in trouble and can't stay out of jail and is a complete loser. I think in some ways, the other owners look at John Fisher that way, the weak link in the chain, and it's kind of a weak chain too. So they don't know what to do with him. What are you going to do? He's screwed up the team. He's made baseball look bad. He's ruined baseball in Oakland. He's driven fans away. He's shown great mismanagement skills, but there he is. He's in your club. What are you going to do?
He's a pitiful steward of our sport. It's super sad that people like him are allowed to be essentially just born into a situation like this, because he's never earned a penny in his life. So my question to you is, on that front, do you think that there are actually some owners, and maybe all of them, and the commissioner's office going, yes? And I'll tell you why. He gets to be the fall guy and the villain. Every owner eventually is going to go back to their public officials and ask for money for a new park or for renovations like what we just saw in Milwaukee. If you never have that threat of, hey, I'm going to actually leave, then it's harder to have leverage. I know that there are people that work for the league that are obsessed with that word. It's their religion. So this is one case where they can say, oh, you don't want to give us $500 million to renovate this, to make my own suites look nicer so I can make more money off them? It has nothing to do with the public. Well then, did you see what happened in Oakland? They departed. So do you feel like that part of the spectrum is not being considered enough? Because I think that has a lot to do with why there is so much support from his frat.
I would agree with that 100%, because almost every owner, either now or at some point in the fairly near future, is going to get into the shakedown game, where they go to the local city, state government or whatever and say, give us more money, build us a new stadium, or do a huge upgrade on our stadium. We see this happen in 5 or 6 cities right now, where MLB is rattling the cage, saying, "Give us more money, give us more money." And this really does put teeth behind that argument. They like you said, they can just say to the government, "Look what happened in Oakland. You want to be the next Oakland? If you don't believe us, this is what happens to folks like you." In other words, the owners are going to the city and saying, "Boy, it's a fine baseball team you got here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it."
Leverage, love leverage.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I wanted to be part of this show was to grow the game. Growing the game of baseball, I think, is something that we've lacked as players. Some fault to ownership, some, and maybe the game of baseball has kind of fallen behind sometimes. Do you think this is a situation that we're not growing the game?
Yeah, I think in some ways it's giving baseball a bad name. It's just making baseball look terrible. I don't see any way MLB comes out of this looking like, whoa, boy, that was a great move. That was really positive. That was helpful to a lot of people. For one thing, you're going to Las Vegas, where you're getting severe pushback from the teachers union for what seems like a legitimate beef that, hey, how about spending some money on education? And it's the same situation in Oakland. Oakland could, all this money they were about to lavish on the A's, they could use that money for for roads and police and schools and things like that too. So it's just, in some ways, this might be good because it might bring everything to a breaking point where the public will look at Oakland and say, okay, this Oakland finally made a stand against this lunacy, this financial extortion.
Scott, you're talking about teams using this for leverage and teams saying, oh, we'll just move. Well, after Las Vegas, and if they expand like they say, there's no places to go. Are they going to go back to say, hey, we're going to take a team back to Oakland after
well,
this?
they could. They could do that. That's one possibility. The problem is that they would go back if John Fisher's still the owner, assuming he doesn't give up and sell. He's a tough guy to deal with. He's proven that. And it's also a possibility I feel this is the case, that one of the reasons, probably a main reason that John Fisher bailed on Oakland is that he couldn't get the financing for his part of the ballpark deal there, that fell apart. And so he had to scramble. It wasn't that Oakland wouldn't give him enough. It's just that his whole massive plan, which was ridiculous in the first place and a super duper long shot in the first place, fell apart because he couldn't uphold his end of the bargain. But it's just, like I said, this could be the start of maybe a revolution. But if they do come back to Oakland, Oakland would have more power. Oakland would have more leverage because the A's would be crawling back. Because like you said, there aren't a ton of. Manfred said there's all kinds of cities out there ready to get a baseball team. Sure, Barstow, Sioux Falls. There's only like 2 or 3 maybe in the picture. Nashville, maybe Portland, but those are problematic. Otherwise, the A's would have gone to them and been dealing with them. So Manfred is overselling that. There's not that many teams out there that are ready, willing, and able to, cities rather, that are able to support right now a Major League Baseball team and build a new stadium.
Is this a good thing for the Giants? Are the Giants like, yeah, we're going to get some A's fans?
I would think so.
Really?
But and so then in a way they might be celebrating. But I really think the Giants feel that, and I could be wrong, I think the Giants feel that if the A's were to come back to Oakland, build a ballpark there, have a legitimate franchise, pay a legitimate salary, and become a competitive team, that it might hurt the Giants a little bit, but not much. I think in some ways it would be very healthy to have 2 teams in the Bay Area. And I don't think the Giants, just my guess, I haven't talked to anybody there, I don't think the Giants are afraid of the A's coming back, that they think they're going to have some massive now influx of new fans because the A's leave.
But I mean, I'll counter just because it's not the same situation. But I was a pretty big basketball fan growing up. I loved the New Jersey Nets through their plenty of terrible times and then some good times. And when they went to Brooklyn, I lost the fandom. I'll still watch them, but I'll watch the Knicks. It doesn't mean the same to me. I'm a Jersey guy growing up, so I like Brooklyn as a city, but it's not where I grew up. So I don't really care the same way. So do you think anyone else will look at it like that? Especially kids, right? If you're a kid, you're young, you want to be able to go to the games of the team that you're rooting for. What is it going to be like? Well, Dad, you like the Oakland A's that had Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco, and we can go to Vegas maybe once a year to see a couple games? I would think that they're going to grab quite a few fans.
You think the Giants would? You might be right. You're right. Because if you're a fan, if you're a kid growing up in Oakland right now, you're 9 years old and you're becoming a baseball fan, and the A's leave, you're going to be watching the Giants. Yeah. So I'm sure it would be a benefit to the Giants, but the Giants' main problem right now is themselves. They've got to get their kind of act together, and they'll be successful either way, I think is the point. But yeah, they would. I'm sure they would be happy if the A's move.
Yeah. So the last one I have for you is, what can be done, whether it's now or really at this point in the future, to try to make a difference in our sport when a situation like this pops up? Because there's been the reverse protest. There's been basically, if you put a vote nationally or within the city or whatever, everyone would have said this is a disaster. Everyone's on the same page. You want to unite the world? Bring up this situation. Bring up John Fisher. Okay? So sure, should we try and help the teachers union with their signatures? Should we talk to players and tell them to all request trades because they're going to be playing in 20 different places? Is there any actual action that can be done? Or is it just one dictator of one team that controls a situation like this.
Yeah, if there's any action, it might be to show strength at the government level. Let's say Oakland right now, and the mayor Sheng Tao and the city council and everything, they were trying to work with the A's. Now, they were pushed in the corner. They were publicly belittled by Rob Manfred, who basically makes fun of Mayor Sheng Tao at every opportunity. And if a government like Oakland pushes back and says, we're willing to work with these people, but we're not going to go as far as they were. We're not going to just roll over and play dead and give them all our money. If government starts standing up to the teams in a real way, rather than just saying, okay, here's all our money, take it. If they start showing that kind of strength, I think it would maybe help turn the tide.
Well, Scott, important conversation. We've been trying to cover it any way that we can because many places don't. So obviously the San Francisco Chronicle's done an exceptional job covering the story as well. We appreciate the time. It's great to have you on the show here for the first time. And thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.